Here we are. We are live. I wanted to shorten that time. I'm gonna just got to say I've got to be transparent, Jenny.
Yeah,
The time between the end of the music and then the introduction, we've got to make something professional there, right? It's got to, or not professional, just a little smoother. But anyway, thank you for tuning in.
I can only do what I can do, Daniel. Okay.
No, it's not on you. It's on the average dude. I'm just trying to be a little more creative and a nice little segue from the music to something kind of fun. Wouldn't that be nice? So thanks again. Tuning in to Jenny Winnie and the Average Dude. A nice little reprieve from the day-to-day.
Daily grind.
The daily grind. Thank you, Jenny.
Mm-hmm. It's just like last week, you know. I mean, I want to say her name right. Well, I'll just call her The Rock.
The Rock. Yeah.
The Rock. And anyway, she was just like, wow.
The queen of goofiness. The queen of goofiness.
Yeah. She didn't know she even needed that last week. But I mean, you know what? It was a reprieve for her. She's like, it jump started her day. We all had a little laugh.
Yes. And we need that. There's a lot of things that frustrate us. Mm-hmm. Isn't there?
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, the introduction to the joke. This is Jenny Winnie and the Average Dude. That's what you're watching.
In case you didn't.
Average Dude. And then this person right over here. See, I've got this point down. It took me forever to figure out. No, you're pointing the wrong way, sir. You're pointing the wrong way. Jonathan Peoples
is back.
And look at he's already throwing out compliments. You gotta love. Gotta love that.
Lordy.
And Marcello, thank you for tuning in here.
Hello,
I saw you commenting earlier. Hello from Atlanta, GA. Welcome to Atlanta, where the players play. And have you never heard that song? Marcello's probably heard that, but that used to be a popular song, Jenny.
Oh.
I know you're not real good with pop culture.
Yeah, you're right. I'm not.
Yeah, there's Joe. Welcome and love to all. Joe, we love you. Thank you for tuning in.
Wait a second.
And like you say, Jonathan Peoples, he's watching Genuine the Average Dude. We must be dreaming that you're in the comments.
I know, because I was like, I thought you fell off the earth, Jonathan.
Yeah.
I would like to acknowledge.
Thank you. He knows the song "Welcome to Atlanta," where the players play.
I don't know if I heard the appropriate melody with it.
Oh. You never heard No, I was doing it perfectly. I was
okay.
It was incredible what I was doing. Seriously.
Okay. So, I would like to do something real quick.
Okay, do something.
All right, here we go. Do you know what day it is?
Oh, got a little music. I like it. May the 4th be with you.
It's May the 4th.
Now, I am not a big Star Wars fan.
Welcome to Atlanta.
Yeah. But no, I did love Return of the Jedi. Those little Ewoks.
Yeah.
Oh, man, those guys were cool.
Not the best one, though.
Okay? That was the best one. You got Jabba the Hutt. You got the Ewoks.
No. Yeah, okay. Yeah, and that is the one, though. Isn't that the one where you get to see Darth Vader turning into good?
Yes, or I don't know necessarily. I think they remove the. You see what I'm doing here? I'm removing the mask.
Yeah,
that's what they did.
I remember.
But I love those Ewoks. They're like teddy bears with intelligence.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
And they lived in the woods and they had the tree house and you remember the adult walkers? They had the logs.
Daniel, come on. And return it. Wait a minute. Let's see. The Empire Strikes Back. We saw that in theater. You, me, little David, your brother, my brother, and our two dads.
Empire Strikes Back. Maybe I was just you're a good bit older than me, so maybe I was just a little too young to remember and really embrace that.
You probably weren't invited on that little trip of cousins, but you're right, Empire Strikes Back was the best. And then you know what? When they brought out Jar Jar, I don't like him. I don't.
You don't like Jar Jar. Now, what's wrong with Jar Jar? He's just
He gets on my nerves. He's like, I believe it. Stop. Just stop. I can't deal with it.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, though, you leave some movies and you leave with that energy. I remember going to the theater after that one. Of course, I was playing with the figures and you had to fight them. And then Back to the Future. If you went to see Back to the Future, what did you do? You got you a skateboard.
I didn't.
And you hang on the back of cars. I remember I went down 85.
I was just in love with Michael J. Fox. And
oh yeah, he's a cool dude.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right, Marcella. Nobody likes Jar Jar. I mean, it was the worst character of all time.
The worst character of all time. I have heard that before, but
it was awful. It was painful.
Yeah.
And then also Back to the Future, it made me think about there is a new documentary coming out, Michael J. Fox.
Okay.
It's called Still. And yeah, because he has Parkinson's.
Yes.
And it talks about he was diagnosed with Parkinson's at 29 years old.
That's a young. That was when he was, and man, his career, he's fantastic.
Yeah, and he said he woke up one day and his pinky was like animatronic. It was shaking.
Oh, wow. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Man, that's tough diagnosis, isn't it?
Oh, good. Especially at 29.
Right.
That's just not normal.
No.
So Empire Strikes Back. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Listen, I remember we saw it at the theater, and I'll tell you, you're not familiar with Spartanburg, but my daddy said, hey, y'all don't have to go get a bath. Just go jump in the pool. And we jumped in the pool. And then we went out to eat at this little place called Jed's Farm.
Jed's Farm.
Jed's Farm had a little and then we went to Empire Strikes Back. It was awesome.
Oh, wow. Man, memories.
Yeah.
Now, tell me about your memories of today. How has your day been so far? Your morning, how's it going?
Well, you know what? I'm trying to be a little productive today. I jumped up and, I started some laundry, did a little work on the computer,
There you go.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Yesterday, guess what I started doing yesterday? What are you laughing at? What are you looking at?
Oh, I'm looking at Doc Brown. Joe said, have you been hanging around Doc Brown? And it took me a second to remember Doc. This is a person you talk about. We're going to talk about distinct advantages later on with Dave, but he looks like a scientist. I mean, if anybody was going to play the role of Doc, it was the character they found.
I know, but when you look at him in other roles, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
He gives you that Kramer vibe off of
yes, he does. Yes.
You always gave me that Kramer vibe too.
No. I would be more of the cooler guy on the show.
You were cooler, but
No, I definitely can see the Kramer vibe. I believe I've got that.
Yeah, you do. You do.
But I talked about this morning in our video. We have these things in life that irritate us, right? Little things.
Like Jar Jar.
Jar Jar. Now we see the hate for Jar Jar. Now obviously he's not a real person. We let these things annoy us, don't we?
Yes.
And I got a little annoyed. Sometimes we have a big Dorito or Frito right here, Yep. And we're just waiting on somebody to kind of knock it off. See what I did there? It's a chip on the shoulder.
Oh, yeah, I got it.
I knew you would, but I was kind of, making sure that joke landed with everybody.
Oh, it landed.
Yeah. But, okay. All right. Well, thanks for tuning in, Ken. Love to have you there, and hopefully things clear up, and I'm sure they will. But real excited to have our guest on today. So I heard this person speak, Dave Sanderson. I heard him speak several years ago, and what do you know? Now we're doing this fun podcast. Dave worked it out to be here with us this morning. He's got an incredible story. I've got a lot of Jenny. Look at the questions. Now, we're not going to get to all these. There's limited time.
I'll just sit over here like this.
Yes, you get your question mark ready. That's the pause, the stop sign. So we're going to go ahead and welcome to the broadcast, Dave Sanderson.
Hello.
Good morning. Thank you very much for having me today.
Dave, glad that you could join us. Ready to dig in. So many things that I want to talk to you about. Didn't get a chance to talk to you after you spoke. It was at an ING event back in Spartanburg several years ago. Maybe you remember that.
I do remember that. Yep.
And you're in Charlotte, North Carolina, correct?
That was a local game for me. So, yes, I am in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Oh, yeah. So it wasn't too far of a drive to come down here and talk to us. But hey, the virtual world, you can join us. Are you in Charlotte today, Dave?
I am. I am in Charlotte. Not traveling again until next week. So this worked out perfectly. Thank you so much for having me today.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So one of the first things before we get into January 15th, 2009, because we're obviously going to talk about that, I wanted to bring up a name that you mentioned in one of your videos, and then I did a little research, and I said, that one of my favorites, Jim Rohn. And I think that he is just so fantastic. So I just wanted you to kind of tell a little bit about your experience with Jim, what you like about him, and how he's impacted your life, and we'll kind of go from there.
Well, thank you for that. I haven't had that question in years, so thank you very much. How that really came about is I had a mentor that started with me back here in Charlotte in 1984, and one of the things he recommended is I started improving myself, working on myself more than anything else. And he gave me a couple people's names. One was Tom Hopkins, and the other was Jim Rohn. So I committed to go. I said, okay, I know who Jim Rohn is. I read a little bit about him, listened to a tape. That's when we had cassette tapes, right?
Yeah.
I said, I could get along with this guy, right? So I flew to Dallas and had the opportunity to be in one of his seminars in Dallas, and it was fascinating. I mean, he was so relatable, but he shared life lessons that you can, it's not only about business, it's about your life lessons. But one of the things that came out of that for me is I never really had the opportunity to work with him, but he mentioned a guy by the name of Tony Robbins.
Yeah.
And then I had the opportunity not only to attend one of Tony's events, but became head of security for him a few years later and got the opportunity to travel with him. So my lineage really goes back to Jim Rohn to Tony Robbins, and just having the opportunity to work and be around those folks has been a tremendous experience in my life.
So how old were you, Dave, when you decided to go to a seminar? What was it about you that said, hey, I want to get better, I want to improve, I want to do something with my life? Where did that come from?
Well, I tell you exactly when it happened. It started in May of 1984 when I was the second assistant restaurant manager here in Charlotte, a place called Howard Johnson. And, it was right on, if you know anything about Charlotte, it's on the intersection of 77 and Woodlawn Road, last stop to the airport back then. But a gentleman used to come in with his wife. His name was Bill. Her name was Bonnie. And they would come in every night and have ice cream and have coffee. I talked because I had second and third shift. I was there. But what I found out is Bill owned over 80 movie theaters in North and South Carolina. And he was like the Sam Walton of Charlotte, wore a flannel shirt, drove a pickup truck, would never know who this guy was. Right?
Wow, I love it.
But so you would talk, but then go to December 24th, 1984, when he rode into the Howard Johnson early. He wanted to show me what he got Bonnie for Christmas, and it was a blue Corvette. And I'd never seen a Corvette, couldn't spell Corvette, right? I knew nothing about Corvettes, but he tossed me the keys. He said, we'll take a ride. We went up and down Woodlawn Road, and he came back. I said, Bill, Bonnie's going to really dig this. He goes, you need one of these. And I said, I can't afford it. But I'm making $13,000 a year. I could barely afford my rent. He goes, that's your problem. It's your mindset. He said, let me show you the mindset it takes, right? For 13 years, he coached me and mentored me. And one of the things he told me, this is like maybe 1986, maybe 1987, is you start needing to invest in yourself. That's when he said, you need to check out this guy, Tom Hopkins or Jim Rohn. And that's how this whole thing started.
Really?
And I started investing myself in 1987. And that's the story how to this day, still do it.
Wow, that's unbelievable. You hit on so many things there. So often we overlook people because of the way that they're dressed, and we think that, if you're successful, man, you look a certain way, you've got all the nice stuff. It's not always the case, is it?
Drove a pickup truck, North Carolina flannel shirt pickup truck, right? Just put it all together, right?
Yeah.
So never judge anybody, man.
Yeah. And Jim Rohn, you mentioned going to one of his seminars. Yeah. I love his Diseases of Attitude. If you've never watched that, you can go back on YouTube and watch him do that Diseases of Attitude. And that is just one of the best seminars that I have seen. Everybody was kind of sitting at the round tables, and he was up and speaking and using the whiteboard.
Yep.
Is that how he did all of his seminars, Dave?
He would sit up front in a chair, right? Had basically a flip chart in the Dallas. He had a flip chart, right?
Yes.
You go up there and start writing stuff down, and there's no PowerPoints, there's no flashing lights, right?
Yeah.
And, I mean, I was fascinated because he just put it on the board and just start talking. And one thing that Tony taught me, and Jim Rohn was a master at this, is he always spoke from the heart.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And that's what really helped me as I transition to what I'm doing today, is always speak from your heart. And that's what the true masters do. And he was a master.
Yeah, I sent my well, I didn't, but my ex-husband and I really started listening to Tony Robbins and everything. He went to one of the seminars, said it was just like unreal, walking on the coals and all this mindset and stuff. Does Tony Robbins stay like that? Like every time? You know what I mean? Is that really him, or is it just like a?
No, that's him.
Yeah. That's
him. He's very intense, right?
Yes.
He's very focused, right? He's very focused, but he comes from the heart on everything he does. A lot of people don't know he's got one of the biggest hearts of anybody, but you don't see that a lot of times, right? You think he's just bigger than life, but no, he's a very giving person, but he's intense. He is intense.
Yeah. I watched him last week. There was that live thing that Matthew McConaughey did, and he was the last little bit, but God, it was really good. I was telling Daniel about some of the things he said, and I was like, wow, it's really good.
He's got a different mission now. He's really about giving back now. It's all about giving back. Last 10 years, he does 10-year plans, and that's one of the things I learned from him, is to do a 10-year plan. And now he's really transitioned from the financial world, which for the last 10 years he's talking about finance. Yes. Now it's really about giving, right, and growing and giving back. So, I think you can learn something from everybody. Something that I learned.
Yep. Everybody's got something to share.
That's right.
There's so many lines that are coming up that both of those gentlemen use. I know that Tony talks about, like you say, we overestimate what we can do in a year and underestimate what we can do in 10 years.
Right.
Isn't that one of the things that he says? But I'm sure there's so many lessons, and being around these great folks, you really kind of dove in when you got that encouragement to kind of go for it. You've been going at it for how long now, Dave?
Well, it's been since '87, and one of the things that I learned, and I learned this from Tony, and I heard this before. I learned it from Tony. Proximity is power, right? Proximity is power. So I always try to put myself in a position to be in proximity of these great people, because you never know what may happen. And that's what happened with me and Tony. I was just in proximity. I was serving. I was at one of his events. I was one of the volunteers. I paid my own way, 100% of the expenses at one of his events over in Hawaii. And just happened to help his wife, his former wife, with the situation. And that's when it all started coming together. And I was just in proximity. I was within the same room.
Yes.
You have to be in proximity to these people, right? You have to.
Absolutely. And I'm so glad that you rang that bell. I think that is such a big deal, to create proximity in whatever that takes to be around great people, because as I've said before, whatever lunch table you're sitting at, if you're sitting with whatever group in school, you start acting like them, talking like them, and being like the people that you're around.
Well, that's what Bill did for me. I mean, one of the things Bill would do for me once a quarter or once every few months, there's this place in Charlotte, it's no longer here, called Bill Spoon's Barbecue. And we'd go down and eat barbecue, right? And put a bib on and have barbecue. It was great barbecue. But the first time he did this, he invited me to come, but he was meeting with his kitchen cabinet. And these are the people like the CEO of then NCNB and First Union and Duke Energy. And he's running with people like that. And here I am sitting at the table. I didn't know what to say, right? I just just shut up, right? Like my mom said, just shut up and listen, right?
Yeah.
But it taught me how to be around these people too.
Right.
These guys and gals put their pants on just like I do, but they have insight. And so, when I had that opportunity to be around Tony and these other people, I could at least understand, the mindset, right?
Yes.
And that helped me immensely.
Absolutely. Yeah. We create proximity. And sorry, Jenny, we create proximity, and then we learn they're a human too. I mean, they have these great abilities, these great strengths, and this great knowledge, but they're just like us. And we forget that if we're not around them. That's a powerful point. Sorry, Jenny, go ahead.
No, I was just wondering, like, being on that table, and I know everybody says that I'm kind of frozen, but y'all can still hear me. Okay. Did you ever feel like you asked a stupid question?
I didn't ask any questions. I had all my questions for Bill, right? It's like, because I mean, this was his kitchen cabinet, right? It wasn't mine.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I remember these guys would walk in, they had suits on, right? And we're in a barbecue joint, right?
Yeah.
In a shack down on South Boulevard. All these guys put the bibs on, right? Under over their tie, put the ties in, put the bibs on, right? And
Yeah.
we'd be eating pork barbecue.
That is awesome.
It's like, I just sit there, man. It's like I have another sweet tea, right? That's all, all I wanted, right? Just sit there,
So you took advantage of that proximity. You started working with or in close proximity to Tony, and developed a speaking career and started doing your own thing, so to speak. And that kind of is what leads us up to this very impactful, very memorable time in your life. I have to keep looking at the date, but it was January 15th, 2009. Right. So I'd love for you to kind of take us back in this time machine and tell us about that day and what happened. I know you've told this story a lot, but I just think it's so powerful.
There's always something new that comes out. That's just amazing. So, it was, I was there for a business meeting, third day of a business meeting. I was still working with a company by the name of Oracle, and I was head of security for Tony, right? So I was doing all these things. Mm-hmm. And I was there in for a 3-day business trip, and we worked at a distribution center that day in Brooklyn. And they opened up early, so we started at 5 o'clock in the morning, right? Instead of the usual 8 or 9. So we got done at 10. So I'm like, I get to go home early.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Called the travel agent, worked with her, and she put me on flight 1549, right?
Yeah.
I had a first class seat at 5 o'clock, man. I gave it up for seat 15A just to get home early.
Oh, wow. I was going to ask you that. That's an interesting little tidbit. Okay.
Yeah. I flew all the time. I flew 100,000 miles a year with U.S. Airways. So, I had all the perks, right?
Yeah.
But, I gave it up just to get a window seat, right? Just to get home. And, nothing unusual until the plane, all of a sudden you hear the explosion on the plane, right?
Oh, Lordy. Okay.
And, there's a whole bunch leading up. But you hear the explosion. All right. I'm in C-15A, see the fire coming out beneath the left wing. All right, plane lost engine. But if you fly a lot, planes have multiple engines. So it's like, no big deal. No big deal. Right? Going back to the airport was banking, right? Going back to the airport, banking. But that's what I tell people. That's where God's grace really entered, because I believe, because it happened on the both engines simultaneously. The double burst strike simultaneously took everything out. So no one at that point knew that it happened on the other side likewise. Which I think was God's grace, because if they did, I think people would have freaked out.
Yeah.
So just to kind of set the stage for folks that may not have heard this, you're on an airplane and you're going home. You've just taken off and something happens. You fly all the time. Tell us about the vibe when at that initial stage. I know all of this happened rather quickly after takeoff. Yeah. What was the vibe in the airplane? Was people just didn't know what was going on? Was there fear?
No, and that's why it was so quiet you could hear a pin drop.
Oh,
and I attribute that. I talked to another captain later on, and we talked about that moment. He asked me the same kind of question. And one of the things that came out was, I think, one of the reasons that played out the way it did that day, because of the passenger makeup of the plane. And people say, well, what does that mean to do anything? Well, if you look at, say, if you're coming from Orlando to Charlotte, what kind of people are going on a plane going from Orlando? Families, kids, parks, right, having fun.
Right.
And a few business people. New York's 180-degree difference, right?
Right.
Business people, right?
Yeah.
Business people who are like, okay, all right, let's, we'll figure this thing out, right?
We'll figure this thing out. That's right.
Figure this thing out. So I think that's why the initial vibe was no one panicked.
Wow.
No one panicked.
I'd have been crying.
So you've taken off, and I think you were in an Airbus 320. I looked that up just to kind of see, So there's 3 seats on either side, an aisle in the middle. You're in we'll just call it a regular seat with the rest of the passengers here.
Steerage. Right.
That we take off shortly after takeoff. This is all happening.
Right.
So everybody's remaining somewhat calm. Tell us what else happens after that.
Well, I just felt it banking, right?
Yeah.
We're going back to the airport, another plane. I'm not getting home early now, right? All right, no big deal. And then you start banking. All of a sudden you look out the window, and all of a sudden you see Manhattan's right there up close. You're like, wow, Manhattan's right here. Never seen it. Right? And then you sort of look out the window a little bit. It's like, there's a bridge coming up. Never seen that one, right? So it's all of a sudden, okay, I hadn't seen this all before. And then you get to the bridge, and all of a sudden it's so quiet, and you hear the captain's only words, "This is your captain, brace for impact."
Oh,
now you know. Now you're serious. Now I would say game on now, because it is serious, and you got less than 60 seconds and something's going to happen, and it's not looking good.
Wow.
And
Okay. So now we have to do a vibe check, right?
Yeah.
Does the vibe change when the captain says brace for impact? Take us inside your mind. Take us in what you think the other folks' minds were, just to kind of set that stage.
My mind was, I better get my stuff together, right?
Yeah.
So I did. I prayed. The first thing I did is I prayed.
Yeah.
Right. And me and my creator need to be on the same wavelengths right now, right?
Right.
It's not looking good, right? Got my wallet, because I always put my wallet in my briefcase because it's always bulky in the back, right? So I put it in the brief. I pulled the wallet out, put it in my pants, because if something happened, at least they can claim my body, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And then, all of a sudden, you put your head down, right?
Yeah.
And then I start putting the game plan together, because if I do survive, I got to do something. And I saw the movie of my life pass before my eyes as I was doing this. It's like I saw with clarity playing Little League baseball and high school football and meeting my wife and all these defining moments.
Wow.
And then my game plan, I kept saying in my head, aisle up, out, aisle up, out, aisle up, out.
What
I had to have a game plan. I'm an athlete.
Oh,
You have a game plan.
yeah.
And I heard other people texting and making phone calls.
Oh, wow.
People were at that point, they were like, okay, this is it. I better get something. I better get it out. I didn't think about that. I just thought about, getting the game plan together. So, yeah, but no one was freaking out. Everybody's making plans, though, because 60 seconds from now, you may not be around anymore.
Wow. So, man, I'm just trying to, that is for me one of the worst possible fears of just hearing the captain say, because I've been on a plane before, things happen as you have, and you're like, well, it's kind of scary, but the captain seems to be cool. If the captain's cool, I'm cool. When he says brace for impact,
it's cool anymore.
No, he hadn't said that one before either. So, that was a new one for him. So,
did you know you were going down in the water at that point?
As soon as he crossed the bridge, because there's nothing left.
Yeah.
I mean, he wasn't going to Teterboro, right? He couldn't get the plane there.
Yeah.
And there's the water, right? It's like the only thing I remember from water landings that I've ever seen is planes toppling.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
Because they don't hit it right. You don't hit it just right. There's a way to hit it. You hit it right. But if you don't hit it right, you're either going to Manhattan or Newark or down the bottom of the river, right? One of the three.
Yeah.
Where are you going?
Right. So here we go. We're bracing for impact, and somebody said, how do you brace for impact? It's the hands on front of the seat and the head down, right? I mean, that's
you don't practice, but whatever you can hold on to, right?
Right. Yeah.
Like and cover that head. You know what I mean? To me, I always think I'm terrified of flying. I've said it 100,000 times. I'm terrified, but I'll still do it. But I'm always looking around trying to see. I'm like, if I could protect this head, maybe things could be okay.
Maybe have a shot.
Yeah.
Maybe get a shot. Yep.
Wow.
Yeah. So here we go. We're bracing for impact. Now what happens?
Well, 60 seconds after he crossed the bridge is when we hit the river, right?
Yeah.
And he hit it hard. I mean, it was a hard. I went back in my seat and up. It rocked me, right?
Yeah.
But he estimates he hit between 100 and 120 miles an hour.
Wow.
So it's a pretty hard hit.
He hit at 120. Okay. Yeah.
Hit it perfectly though, right? Backside first, right? But when he did that, all of a sudden, have you never been to the museum in Charlotte where the plane is? The back of the plane ripped off. So now water's coming in, right?
Oh, wow. Okay.
And it's 36-degree water, right? So it's cold water. But you're not feeling it because now it's like, okay, I'm alive. What do I do now?
Yeah.
Aisle up, out, right? Aisle up, out, aisle up, out. So, have a game plan, right?
Yes. Aisle up, out. Yep.
Yep. So at that point, what? People were very orderly. I mean, I'll say it like this. It was the term I used that night with Katie Couric. It was controlled chaos.
Real,
right?
Yes.
No one's losing it, but man, it's time to roll now, right?
Chaos. Yep.
We're not messing around now. We got to go. And it was my time to go. I was like, okay, aisle up, out, and that's when everything changed for me.
Mm-hmm.
That's what changed because when I was ready to get out, and all of a sudden I heard my mom talk in my head, and my mom passed away in 1997. But there was something she would tell me as a child. All of a sudden I heard in the back of my head, it was, if you do the right thing, God will take care of you.
Mm-hmm.
And I grew up in a small town outside of Cincinnati, Ohio, where everybody knew everybody and everybody had everybody's back. The good old days, right? When the neighbors down the street knew who you were, right?
Yeah.
took care of you. You could go out till 11 o'clock at night and your parents aren't yelling at you, right?
Yes.
So that's when I made the decision to climb over the seats to go towards the back of the plane, see if anybody needed help.
Wow.
Because I didn't know if they needed help. I knew I was alive, right?
Yeah.
I knew I was okay. Let's see if anybody else needs help. Climbed over and it got to the back, and the water was about chest level deep at that point.
Oh, wow.
Because the plane is actually submerged at that point.
Yeah.
But people are moving, all right? No one's waiting around, right? Everybody's moving. So I get behind the last person, and I'm starting to make my way out. Now, it's chest level deep water. The plane hits on the back. Bins are broken open. Luggage is coming out, floating in the water. And it's dark because it's late afternoon New York winter.
Wow.
Right? So you're just sort of, you can see, but you can't really see, right?
Right.
It's not like in a movie where there's a lot of sunshine coming in and lights.
No.
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 So first light that I saw was on the right side of the plane at 10F, like I'm out of here, right? Time to go. And then I got there, I looked out, and there was no room on the wing of the boat for me. It was already filled up. And that's why I was inside the plane for about 7 minutes, waist deep in 36-degree water, holding on to the lifeboat.
Oh, my
Whoa.
word.
So I can't help. Anytime we hear a story, what do? We put ourselves there.
Yeah.
If I'm Dave, I've survived. Now I'm in freezing cold water. It's going to be a hard thing for me to do, climb over that seat and start looking for people to help, if I'm being honest about it, right? I mean, I want to get out of this plane.
And I don't judge anybody. Hey, everybody did what they were told to do, and everybody had to do what they had to do, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Everybody did what they had to do.
Yeah. So you get to so they've run out of room. So you're on the plane. It's starting to sink. Are you panicked at this point, Dave? Are you nervous?
I was focused.
Focused.
Extremely focused, right?
Yeah.
I was watching everything because, this thing is moving very quickly, right? And you all of a sudden look up, and all of a sudden it sounds like people walking on water. I tell people it's like a miracle. That's like a miracle, right, from the Bible. Yeah. You look out, and all of a sudden you see people walking down a wing, but it's actually walking on water.
Mm.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it was amazing. But what happened was about 4 or 5 minutes later, all of a sudden I felt the plane shift. And I didn't know what happened until later. What I found out was one of the boats in the rescue was a tugboat. It was a big boat. Tugboats are big, heavy boats. They got boats in, right? As he backed out, he hit the front of the plane, and it shook the plane. When it shook the plane, I felt water go up my back, and all of a sudden I thought Titanic. I was like, this thing's going
that's
down,
what I was just thinking. Oh my gosh, I was just thinking that.
I don't want to be stuck down in a plane, right? I mean, I've already survived one thing, right? Let's at least now give us a shot, right? So that's why I always stop and thank my mom and dad, because they had made me get swimming lessons when I was a kid. I may not be here today because I had to jump in and swim, and that was the longest 15-yard swim of my life. That's the end of about the length of the wing is what I had to swim to get to the boat. It's 36-degree water, fully clothed, and jet fuel. And that's why I wear glasses today, because I got jet fuel in my eyes. They found out from the swing. Yeah, they had little specks of jet fuel in my eyes. When I got back to Charlotte, and I was having trouble seeing. So, but now I get there, right? I'm now at a boat, and I got there, and now they're yelling at me to climb. And I can't, right? And, I tell people, and once again, I'll go back from a biblical perspective. It's sort of like Peter when Jesus said, come on, walk on the water, right? And Peter's like looking down. He all of a sudden falls through the water because he didn't believe, right?
Yeah.
And all of a sudden I said, can't. And my mom's word that she hated most of life was can't. She won't let us say it in the house. We never said that when we were kids. She would slap us, tell us, we never say that word in this house. We got one arm up and the other arm up, and somebody grabbed me and got me on the boat. And that's what I tell people. You have to have faith. You have to believe, right?
Yeah.
But you got to put yourself in position too, right? You can't just expect somebody to come rescue you.
Right.
You got to put yourself in the position, and that's what I think happened to me that day. I was fortunate to have enough mindset, which I was fortunate enough to learn early in my life. Yeah. To at least keep going, right? As long as I'm going, I'm alive, right?
Yeah, and so it's very possible, but that all those lessons that you learned from those great mentors, those people that you had proximity to, it allowed you to do the right thing, including your mother, right? I mean,
that's right.
The mentorship started with mom.
Well, I tell these people, especially kids and younger people, your mom and dad sound like idiots, right? When they're young, right? And all of a sudden, 20 years later, the old man, the old ladies knew what they were talking about, right?
Smart.
Hey,
They're smart people, right?
Anytime I say with my dad, I'm like, man, that couldn't be right, And anytime I do that, every time it proves that he actually was.
Yeah, they knew what he was talking about, right? Yep.
So,
how did that like change? I mean, so that moment, did it send you on a different path, outlook on what you wanted to do?
Yeah. I mean, it really happened that following weekend, Jenny. I mean, when I got back to Charlotte, that was a whole other story we don't have time to talk about. But when I went to church that weekend, everybody wanted to talk to me. Mm-hmm. But there was one guy who really wanted to talk to me. He was the head of men's breakfast and asked me to speak the next week at men's breakfast. Now, I've been to that church, at that time it was 15 years. I know what men's breakfast is. A bunch of old guys, right? Eating pancakes, right? Yep. No big deal. We're in the South, we know, right? You show up men's breakfast, you have pancakes, and you sing a little bit, right? No big deal. But they put it out in public in the Charlotte Observer, and 500-600 people showed up.
Oh wow!
Now I don't even know what I'm going to say. Now I'm freaking out. It's like, but more importantly, they ran out of pancakes, right? And that's not good for Methodists. I'm not going to go for Baptists, all right? But for Methodist, you better have some food, right? So now I go behind the stage because our church set up with a gym and a stage and curtains, and that's how our church set up. Go behind the curtain and say, God, give me something to say, man, right? Give it to me now, deliver. And because I didn't practice. I was whirlwind, right? I was all over the place, right? And he gave me something to say. Don't know what I said. But two men wanted to talk to me. One was from, then it was Nations Bank and Wachovia. Now it's Bank of America and Wells Fargo. But they had people on the plane with me. But what happened was, this is when it changed for me, Jenny, is I was just talking to these guys, right? Just talking a little bit. I look up and there's old ladies in the back of the room, elderly lady. I should be very politically correct, elderly lady. But she looked at me and caught my eye and came up and came and interrupted just walked in the conversation and grabbed my arm. And I jumped. I'm like, what's this old lady going to do to me, right? I mean, you don't know. Nowadays, you don't know, right? It's like, but she looked me in the eye and said something that changed everything. She said, I was questioning if there's a God, and I don't believe in miracles, but you're physical evidence that there is a God and he does miracles. Yeah. Thank you. She let my arm go, looked me in the eye and walked away. And all of a sudden I see two grown men crying, bawling right in front of me.
Wow.
And my minister was behind me witnessing this whole thing. And I'm like looking at him like, what's going on, right? I'm trying to figure this thing out. And that's when I realized what happened to me impacted somebody. Yeah. And now believes in a greater being because of me. And Jenny, that was the moment that set me on a whole different pathway in my life.
That's amazing. I've got to put Jonathan Peoples. He keeps us entertained. I wish I was as funny. He says he loves eating pancakes with the old guys.
The old guys can do it, man.
He backs it up. Isn't thou shalt not run out of pancakes the 11th commandment.
Yep. So Methodist, you better not. Right? Might all right for Baptists, right? But not for Methodists, right?
Wow. That's right. You make a great point there too. We talked about earlier, speaking from the heart. And I think that's kind of I call that the parachute. When we don't know what to say, we don't know what to do, we just speak from the heart. And that's the thing that's going to save us, right? We don't know what to say. We feel intimidated. We feel scared. Whatever that is, we just speak from the heart because we're all human. So I think that experience, I think it allowed you to speak from the heart from now on because you experienced something that impacted other people's lives, that gives them hope and inspiration, and you live through it, right?
Yeah, and you go back to Jim Rohn and Tony. One of the things you never saw them. If you ever saw him, and I was with Tony a lot, he never has notes. He always spoke from the heart.
Really?
And he told me that. He said, "We do it when you do this," because he was pushing me out of the nest. Go, do it. Speak from your heart, right? Don't ever take notes on stage. So I'm so glad you said that. I just go and I say a prayer and just speak from the heart from that point on. So
I love that. So I do a little bit of public speaking myself, and my last speech, I was so nervous to get up, but I knew that I needed to go up without any notes because if I have the notes, I can't speak from the heart. I'm going to be attached to that, and you can't connect with your audience if you've got notes in your hand. It's more about me than it is about them almost, and So
look people in the eye. You got to look people in the eye, right?
Right.
And get in their heart, get in their soul, right?
Yeah.
Then you get that kinesthetic connection.
Yes. Yes. There's something that happens. And Jenny, she's showing us a question mark. That can mean only one thing. Jenny Winnie's got a question.
Well, it just means that I don't want to interrupt Daniel, but he's on a roll.
Yeah, he's on a roll.
But you said that first time that you spoke at church, okay?
Right.
And you're like, oh, I don't even know what I'm going to say and this and this. Okay. Are you nervous? When did you get over that? When did you get over just speaking from, and just start speaking from the heart?
Well, I sort of took the Zig Ziglar approach. And Zig Ziglar's approach was the first 50 to 60, 70 times you speak, do it for free. Just practice your technique, right? And just internalize it.
Yeah.
So that's what I did. I just went up and started talking, and I have some thoughts in my mind, right? Where direction I was going to go.
Yeah.
But I would just talk. And then that's what happened. And all of a sudden my real breakthrough came maybe a year and 6 months later, 4 or 5 months later, is when I got invited to speak for the Red Cross up in DC at the Supreme Court.
Wow.
And that was a very impactful fact, because I had to deliver.
Yeah.
I had to deliver. So I knew I really practiced my technique, and I knew what I was going to say, but I connected with each person in that room. I looked at everybody in that room once. And also it came to me, right? And then somebody who saw me do that set me on a whole different pathway.
Oh, wow. Yeah. And I think that what you're saying, like looking at anytime I've ever been to somebody doing public speaking or motivation or whatever, and when they make eye contact, you literally feel like they're talking to you.
That's right.
I mean, you do. It's like, I don't know. They just must like me a whole lot, And I'm like, oh yeah, they're talking to me, but you made that connect. That is.
I did that last week in Ohio. I had 250 people, and I made sure at least looked at everybody at least once. And all of a sudden, you have that connection, right? Now they're on the plane with you.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
They're on the plane with you.
They're on the plane with you.
Yeah.
Because that's a powerful emotional time, obviously for you, and vicariously we live that story. We go on that plane. Who are we going to call if we're going down? If he says brace for impact, what do we do? Who are we thinking about? What's important, right? You talk about moments mattering, and I think that's such a true statement, right? I mean, and we find out what really does matter when he says brace for impact, right?
Yep. And that's why we named our book Moments Matter, because you all of a sudden realize all these moments in our life are there for a reason and a purpose. They prepare you for that. But when that one defining moment comes, all this crap that we worry about, I still have it, like everybody does. They don't matter. It's those moments, right, that make it up. And also you realize it's your family, it's your relationship with your creator, whatever you call that creator, right?
Yeah.
Whatever it is, right? It's those things that are really important. So, some of the stuff that we all worry about, we all worry about stuff. Yep. Yeah, like my assistant tells me, no one dies, no one's bleeding, we'll get through it.
That's it.
There you go. I love that. I want to bring Joe's comment on here, Jenny. He says, funny how one incident in our life can pave the way to our future roadways. Some are born great, some achieve greatness, and some have greatness thrust upon them. William Shakespeare quote there. Mm-hmm. Very true. What were you going to say there, Jenny?
Well, I was just going to say that it's like also just, I think about your mom, how she really instilled and ingrained that in you, and how we try to do that with my children. I say to them, if you do the right thing for the right reasons, it works out. That's what I always say. It'll work out. If you're doing it for the right reasons, it will work out. And how you remembered that. And so it's like that, it just shows you how important it is as your kids to instill that in them.
Well, Mike, I'm glad you brought that up, Jay, because I'm going to go back to that day or the next day, because two of my kids got to actually witness this. Because when I got back to Charlotte, I was all these interviews and all that stuff, right? Yeah. My eldest daughter, who's the one who got the voicemail that I left from the ferry that I was alive, handed me my key fob, because I lost my key. I've lost everything, right? Yeah. So handed me my key fob. We got to the car, and I sat down, and she was in the front seat, and my third daughter, who was I think was in 5th grade at that point, in the back seat. And I said, you know what? My mom was right. If you do the right thing, God does take care of you.
Oh,
and I think they got to see that, right? Because, the last 24 hours that day, it was like going crazy, right?
Yeah.
But she was right.
Yeah.
I could have done something different. It would have been the right thing, but it did pay off. And so, I tell kids, hey, your mom and dad, these things they tell you, you say, okay, I'm like, I don't know if I buy that or not. I don't see that on TV or TikTok, right?
Oh, I know.
Like,
Exactly.
you know what? One thing that we have that they don't have is wisdom.
Yeah.
Because you have to have time for wisdom.
Yep. Oh,
Can't
that's
get
true.
wisdom tomorrow, right?
Well, it's an excellent point. I think, we do the right thing. It's not immediate return. You were doing the right thing, but man, you had to swim through water with all that suit on probably and shoes and get pulled up. You got gas in your eyes.
Every day in Jesus' life wasn't pixie dust and sunshine.
That's
Right.
right.
And that's what I tell people. It's like, I believe there's a Jesus and a God. That's me. You can believe whatever you want. But Jesus has some bad days, right?
Yeah.
I mean, what happened to him, right? He did the right thing, right? He never gave up. And
Absolutely.
he lives in glory now, right? So
So that just being in alignment, doing the right thing, whatever that means for us, that's a big deal. It's not immediate return, but eventually, hey, you can't lose if you're doing the right thing, right?
That's right.
So I want to talk about a few other things that you did. I know you only have about 5 minutes left. One of the things, so I know you did the Navy SEAL swim.
Yeah.
You went back and kind of overcame the thing that got you. Tell us briefly about the swim and that experience.
Yeah, I had no game plan to go back to the Hudson River and swim. That was not my game plan. Unfortunately, one of my friends was going to do it with the Navy SEALs and said, "Would you do it with me? And maybe you get some redemption, right? Maybe you'll." So I did it, right? And I had swam since 1979, and so I had to relearn how to swim in 100 days. Go from basically 25 yards in Charlotte, North Carolina, to 3.1 miles. In one of the toughest currents in the country, right in the river. Yeah. But you know what? I wanted to show my kids and people that, at 60 years old, you can do anything. It's about your mindset, right? Mm-hmm. Plus, I wanted to show people how you face your fear. And then, all of a sudden, what you realize out of this experience is all about gratitude.
Yes.
You don't get here by yourself in life.
Mm-hmm.
And giving thanks to something bigger than yourself is what really came out of that. And so, I did that, and I'm blessed to be able to survive it. It was rough. I'm not telling you it was easy. It was one of the roughest things I've ever done in my life.
Oh,
man. But it came out with so many great lessons and great relationships for me.
Yeah, great lessons and relationships. And sometimes these, Jim Rohn said, work harder on yourself than you do on your job. And
always.
I think having these athletic pursuits, these doing hard things with great people, you've got proximity, it lifts you up so you can be great when you do business, right?
Yeah, and if I can handle this, right?
Yeah.
What else can I handle, right?
Absolutely. So one other thing here before I know again you have to go here, but you talk about distinct advantages, and I think that's so important because we see all this talent in the world. Everybody's talented, and we're like, well, my goodness, what do I have?
Yes.
Talk about finding your distinct advantage and why that's important.
I think this is one of the big insights that I had after the plane crash because, I was like, am I really worthy to do this? Right. I mean, come on, and all of a sudden I started realizing after I had a conversation with Tony, talking to some people, but what the distinct advantage is what you're most passionate about and most gifted at. And everybody's got a passion and everybody's gifted at something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All you got to do is find those two. Once you find those two things and they come together, I tell people and I use a baseball term, pitch. That's the point in time that changes everything. Mm-hmm. Pitch. Because if you find your passion and what you're most gifted at and they merge, you're unstoppable. And it may be just being a mom, right? Mm-hmm. I'm passionate about it. I'm really good at it. That's my advantage. I can be the best mom in the world. So I just happened to find out everything melded for me like that, right? I was passionate about helping people, and I had a gift of speaking.
Yes, and that's right. And then you look at these external factors. Of course, you didn't plan to be in this horrible, but all things kind of came together. So you use your strengths, you use your gifts, and you use what happens to create a great life for you and the people you care about to give back. Jenny, you got
one thing I wanted to say because I know he's leaving, but the thing you posted the other day about if you don't aim at anything, that I don't know why I keep going back to it and looking at it because I feel like, I don't know, Tony Robbins said something about it too last week, but in a different way. But I just thought it's so right because it's like you have a goal if you're not aiming towards it, you're never even going to get there. And I'm applying this to myself because I have these goals and everything. But when I read that, I was like, it's like he's in my head or something. But it's so true. It was a great little article that you did there.
Well, I do that every week on LinkedIn and Facebook
because
I want people to understand there's a lot more than the background. There's a lot of these lessons, and my mission now is to teach everything that to the next generation.
Paying it forward,
leave it behind, leave the legacy, because that's what my mentor did with me. That's my mission right now. So you're helping me do that. So thank you so much for letting me do that.
Yeah. Well, thank you for spending some time with us. I know you're a busy man, and we just do this podcast to encourage ourselves and hopefully encourage other people. You've been a great guest, and hey, have a great rest of the day, Dave.
Absolutely.
Likewise, and I'd love to hook up with you when I get down to Spartanburg, all right?
Yes, please do.
Hey, and Dave, I'm in Shelby, right outside of Charlotte.
I know where Shelby is, on the way to Spartanburg. I know exactly where it is.
But my business is in Spartanburg. So, when you come on down to Spartanburg.
We'll make a pit stop. All right.
Sounds good.
Y'all have a blessed day. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
See ya. Thanks. Bye. Well, there we go. Now, Jenny, I want to say a couple of things. I want to say, number one, great job at not freaking out when you were told that your video was not doing well. I was in my mind, I was thinking, please don't tell her that her video is not doing good, because she might freak out. And you didn't tell us. How did you freak out?
But I'm going to tell you what I did.
Okay. Tell us what you did. We want to go inside Jenny Winnie's head here.
Well, I know that you said that my face shows that,
the worry.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Yeah.
And so, you know what I did? I just sent out a text to Mr. Jonathan.
Yeah.
Jonathan.
Yeah.
Am I still frozen?
Yeah. Oh, did you really?
Yeah.
Wow, you're like one of those pickpocket people. You know,
listen, I had to do it a couple of times because I was trying to look at you type it. And then I said, man, this is giving me anxiety. And you know what Jonathan said?
What?
He said, don't listen to Otis.
Oh, don't listen to Otis. Isn't that a smart remark to make? Mm-hmm. I love that. Otis being the OCD, the externalization of this area here, this little monster that wants to take away the joy of the moment. But I did see that, and I was thinking, man, I hope Jenny doesn't.
You know what? I was wondering, because he was freezing on me some, so
he was a little bit with the. So I don't know how that.
But you were fine. You were just fine. So don't worry about anybody else.
Oh no! I
started to panic. I almost went out to come back in, and then I said, "No, I'm not going to do it." They said they can hear my voice, so it might just be my voice going.
That's right. That's right. And your face didn't stick on any of those funny looks. You know how sometimes.
Man, I still had more to ask him. And
what were you going to ask? Let's talk a little bit.
I just feel like he has a lot to share. You know?
Yeah, he does. Yeah, absolutely. And I love some of the things that he was talking about. I love the fact that he said that he likes to go up without notes because, of course, that spoke to me. And I like to, I love Jim Rohn and some of these quotes that Jonathan Peoples put up. This is one of my favorites. Don't wish it was easy.
Hey, he didn't want you to do that one. He wanted you to do the one that actually he spelled right.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. He's a great speller. I did not mean to give the impression that
you do that.
that JP's not a good speller. But what a great quote is that, because so often it's just like, but that just says, hey, it's on me. I have the responsibility to improve. Mm-hmm. And that, of course, makes me think of things like Toastmasters. You go into Toastmasters, there's all these great speakers, and everybody is just as good.
Well, hey, now wait a minute. At the end there, when he said about the pitch, what were the two things?
The pitch. Oh,
he said it's like what you're passionate about.
Yes.
And what you're good at, or you're.
Yeah. That's kind of how I took that. I can't speak to it exactly what that was, but I did understand what his point was. It's like all these things intersect. I call it our shoebox of talent, right? Yeah. In this great big cube of all these talents, there's this little tiny shoebox of things that we are it's our niche. It's what we're, mine is kind of the energy. I'm always going to have the energy. So it's how can I use my energy to benefit others, I guess, is to contribute.
I know.
So
Parallel universe. He's in the metaverse. Okay, Jonathan.
yeah. So
that. Oopsie.
And moments matter. We have this ebb and flow. So the one thing that we all experience that I wanted to talk about a little bit is this day to day, this ebb and flow. So not just in a week's time, but in our day to day lives, something good will happen, then something bad will happen, something good will happen, and kind of erasing what's happening and coming back. And that to me is really success, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, this morning I had so many things. Passion and what you are gifted at equals distinct advantage, and that's why I love having great listeners, such and paying attention. So, what did you guys think of our guest today? I love that story. It makes us all think.
I know. And I mean, I remember because I am scared of flying. We've all, I've said it 100,000 times. And then when that happened, I remember thinking, what? Okay, any plane I'm on, please let Sully be flying it.
Yeah. Well, and what's amazing too, now he got all these awards and things, and I didn't bring this up, but I did read, I've never seen the movie, by the way.
Of course not.
But they talked about maybe the right thing to do was to try to make it back to the airport.
Yeah, but no, I know.
But he had to make that, talk about responsibility. I mean, as a pilot,
I read too that it was saying how, if he'd have tried to do that, it could have been a lot worse consequences. I mean, he made the right choice.
Yeah, I guess we'll never know, but it all turned out well. Now, what I didn't know, somebody told me Tom Hanks was flying that plane. Is that true?
In the movie?
No, Tom Hanks was the pilot of the
Yeah, he played Sully. He does it great.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He can play any character great. So.
Oh my gosh, that was so. I mean, and I didn't know that. I mean, I liked hearing this from the perspective of him. You know what I mean? He was there. I would have been so happy to be in the water. I just know that I'm alive. That's
right. Yeah. I mean, that's kind of what I was thinking, so you brace for impact, you hit the water, then, hey, I'm not dead. Because, I mean, if I would have died, I wouldn't know.
And that adrenaline had to be like, whoosh. I bet when it was finally, he probably took like a week nap.
Yeah. But now, if you didn't have any family on that plane with you, if it was just you, and you had the opportunity to get off, would you get off or would you go look to help people? I mean, from your perspective.
I don't know, Daniel, because I'm a helper.
Yeah. I would hate to see people.
I don't know that I would have gone over and put myself at the end of the line, but I certainly would have tried to been helping the people around me.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And everyone is, that sort of thing, it'll make you think.
Oh, it'll make you think. It'll make you think. Yeah.
And so I think that's why that's such a powerful guest.
Yeah.
So,
it was amazing. What's
your final thoughts? Jerry Springer, he had his final thoughts. Maybe we should do a final thoughts here. I
don't know. Honestly, I was being truthful when I said I kept going back to seeing that about if you don't aim, and that has motivated me.
Yeah.
That has really motivated me.
Yeah, I did. I have not read that article, but I'm going to need to, but it sounds like having some type of target instead of just kind of going through our day to day. It's like,
and then thankfully Joe remembered passion, what you're gifted at. It is a distinct advantage. We got to use it. It's like we have things that we're good at. I have things that I'm legitimately good at.
Right.
And if I'm passionate about it, then that is a distinct advantage.
Yeah. Yeah. You have a talent, you have energy behind it, then good things can happen. And then you use all those things for the right reason. Mm-hmm. And that's the formula. And again, I hate to keep bringing up Toastmasters, but I do it on Thursday mornings, right? Yeah. Everyone's got a different style. Everyone's got a different strength. It's kind of, I love going over to mom and dad's and they'll show me the highlights of American Idol. Right. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of the same thing as, there's a lot of talented people, a lot of talented musicians. Some can sing a variety of songs. Yeah. Others are niched down. Some have a big voice. Others are great performers, but they're all singing and they're all good,
Yeah.
And they tell them time and time again, just be you. Just be you.
Well, hey, Toastmasters, can you ever bring a guest?
Absolutely, love for you to come. I've asked some folks around here. I just think that it's such a great thing. It overcoming. What? Can you hear the sirens in the background?
Daniel, is your plane in the water?
No. Hey, we're running out of time here.
Yep.
20 seconds. We're going to end things. Thanks again to Dave Sanderson. Thanks again for Jenny Winnie and her pixel thing going on there.
May the fourth be with you.
May the fourth be with you. Thanks, everybody. Joe, Jonathan, and all of the guests. Thank you so much. Have a great day, everybody. Let's roll.